Do you want to build a product with a best possible customer experience and create a seamless experience for them? Are you wondering how you can create products that customers love? Watch this podcast till the end to learn more about user journey mapping and how you can delight your customers.
Welcome to our podcast, Everything Product. We talk about insights on latest technology with product mindset. I'm Sid Saladi. I work as a product manager for Best Buy.
Hey everyone, this is Srinath. I work as a product ops manager at Twilio.
Yeah, so this podcast started as an experiment 4 months back, and we have received a lot of love from you guys. So thanks a lot for all the love and support. So we have close to 14,000 minutes of watch time, and it's been so great to see you guys enjoy the content here. So I'd say if you have not subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button, and that'll encourage us to create more and more exciting content. Srinath, do you want to add anything?
No, definitely. Really pumped with the amount of support and love that we have been getting in this journey so far, and it's just been 4 months. And another statistics which I want to also highlight is the reach. We have reached approximately in 14 different countries, so which is pretty exciting. And we have been listed in top 25 in the category content as well. So pretty excited towards there in 2023. I mean, there's a lot of exciting content that's going to come, and I highly appreciate when you continue to support us and subscribe to our channel, Everything Product.
Yeah, and also the same from Phani. Phani is actually on a vacation, so he's not able to join us. But yeah, we three are, kind of very happy to receive so much of support from you guys. Yeah, so let's get maybe started with our this week's topic here. So we have user journey maps. I'd say user journey maps are a very critical piece of any product, and also that helps us figure out pain points and all of that stuff. So we'll get started with the topic, and I would maybe start with a quick question here. Srinath, so what do you like? Have you used user journey maps before, and what was your experience with them?
Yes. So this is one of my favorites, and I've used that in many instances in the past. I mean, it really helps you to understand what the customer problem that you're trying to solve, what are their goals, and figuring out how you can help solve the customer problem or reach their goals. So it's a very useful framework for anyone who wants to, I mean, understand what the new features that we need to launch for the customer. How do you solve the customer pain point, and how do you reduce the customer friction in whatever experience they are in. So there are a number of different use cases that this is can be used. So yeah, no, pretty excited about this. I mean, what do you think, Sidhu? And I'm sure you might have used this as well.
Yeah, so as you're talking, right, removing friction, reducing the pain points and all, I remember of this quote from Steve Jobs. Like he says, right, I think it's in a Mac presentation somewhere where he says you have to got to start with the customer experience and work back towards technology, not the other way around. So that's I think that's a really good way of saying how products could be built in a really better way. So I'll also maybe we'll add the link to that video into the description so that people can watch that. But I would say customer journey map is a tool set that will help us, get some of those pain points out of the overall journey, and make it more smooth and easy for that. So maybe let's do it this way, Srinath. So should we like break it down into different steps, and then do back and forth, and go through these steps, and also share our experience on how the user journey map works? Does that sound good?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I would say there could be lot of different ways to do user journey maps, but maybe let's see what would be ideal steps which we could get through, and create a user journey map here. I think I'll list down the steps now. The first is defining a persona, then identifying what the user goals are, then map out the different steps in the user journey, then identify the emotions and thoughts of the user and identify the pain points of the user, and then maybe create the user journey map with all of the data above. So let's maybe start with the first step here, right? Define a persona. So how do you define a persona? So your thoughts, Srinath?
Yeah, no. Defining persona is nothing but understanding who's your customer. I mean, what are the behaviors that they generally, I mean, have? Like, what is the gender? What is their age? What are their preferences, hobbies, and what do they generally care about? For instance, when they are purchasing a product. So it's just understanding about your customer segment in detail, because at the end you are trying to solve the problem for that unique customer segment, and understanding the customer behavior, needs, and what they care about is really important when you're mapping this journey. So that's what I would say. Anything that you want to add?
Yeah, so I think that brings up a really good point, right? So a journey map for a teenager might look different. Imagine a person wants to buy a gift, right? A teenager might want to buy something different than maybe a grandmother who wants to buy something different, right? So I think
Exactly.
each of the user would have their own preferences, their own frustrations, and their own pain points. And I think solving for a specific customer will help us create value for that specific customer. If we don't have a persona in mind and make it more general, the more general it is, the more difficult it is to understand what the specific pain points are, and is it solving their need or not. So I think uh, defining a persona would be the first step to do it. And as you said, right, it could be done in multiple different ways, where you have it could be defined by the age, gender, behavior, spending habits, and all of that stuff. And I've also done
Yes.
personas where we were giving names to the personas, like Joe, or Srinath, or my name
Yes.
said. And you maybe, like, if it's a carpenter, right, you put the picture of a person who is similar to doing that job. Or if it's a soccer mom, you have that image, so that if anybody who's working in that for that product could imagine what the person is,
Exactly.
right, and kind of fit into the shoes of the person to imagine how he would approach or buy something like that.
100%. Yeah, because can't agree with that more. I mean, especially it's very important for customers to relate. I mean, is this product for me? And also, I mean, as a product manager, I mean, one thing you need to think, you cannot build a product that serves everyone's needs. So you need to be focused. You need to understand who's your customer. For instance, let's take an example, right? Like you have Instagram. Instagram, I mean, you can assume that's probably for population or people around maybe 15 to maybe 35, but I don't think like a 60-year-old person would use Instagram as much. So when you're trying to launch any features with an Instagram, you need to understand that this is your customer segment, so you can accordingly figure out a plan to solve that customer goals. So yeah, no, definitely one of the very important first steps that people need to know.
Yeah, that's right. So maybe I'll share one persona, Srinath, so that people can understand how personas are defined. So let me share my screen real quick. Example where we were talking about, right, naming your persona. And this is an example of a persona who's actually wants to buy food online. So there could be multiple different people, but we are saying specifically what this person is, right? This person is a food lover, but also has dietary requirements, and kind of and we also mention requirements of gluten-free food, shops weekly. And she does a midweek shop to the local grocery store, and all of that stuff. So based on this, we could basically build a user journey map and remove any pain points or friction that she has while doing that purchase that comes in the way of purchase. So just wanted to show this as an example, so that people understand how do personas look like.
Yes, no, that's a very good way of putting together.
Yeah, so let's
So
move to the next step here, Srinath. The next step is basically identifying user goals. So thoughts on that?
yeah, no, that's another key step that people need to be aware. I mean, it's basically understand what your customer goals are. What are they trying to achieve with your feature? For instance, let's take an example from you just shared, Amy. where she's trying to shop around food which is suitable for her needs, which meets dietary restrictions. So the goal that you're trying to solve here is, I mean, how do you create an experience for Amy so she can get that food very easily in the most seamless way possible? Similarly, I mean, take an example of, well, like an earlier example like Instagram. How when what is this user trying to achieve? For instance, if probably the user is more interested in kind of using like various camera features like boomerang, that kind of features. So trying to, how do you understand that goal and create a unique experience after understanding the goal? I mean, anything that you want to add, Sidhu?
Yeah, I think every user that comes to maybe an e-commerce site, right, has a goal, right? Like maybe a person might be searching for furniture, a person might be searching for a Christmas gift, a person might be discounted discount price shopper who's just looking for discount. So I think defining the goals will help us understand the user again better, and also make the experience much easier.
Yes, and you need to have a very, I mean, goal which you can measure. So that's very important as well, because that's how you can measure your customer. I mean, once you launch your feature, that's how you measure your like, I mean, product success, customer satisfaction scores, and whatever it is. So it's very important to understand the goal before you start trying to solve the problem. So never jump into user mapping before understanding the goal. I
That's
mean,
right.
yeah, so that's one thing I would say. Yep.
Yeah, and also maybe an example would be, right, where we are trying to make it easy for users to pay for things where they find online, right? So I think Amazon is famous for that, where they have this one click feature, right? So I think implementing that actually increase the number of people abandoning their carts, or thinking to buy or not, because it actually makes it frictionless to buy things.
Exactly. I mean, I think Amazon did an awesome job there. For instance, if it's the same customer, I mean, if the most of the customer's information is already there, for instance, the billing payment preference probably is most likely the customer wants to use the same one. For instance, let's take an Amazon Prime card, right? Like, so if a customer has an Amazon Prime Visa card, that means most likely they bought that to make purchases with an Amazon, and that would be probably where they're like by default payment method. And also, I mean, the shipping address most likely, unless it's an apartment, or even if it's an apartment, most likely it's not gonna, I mean, change a month over month. So having that information already stored within Amazon, I think Amazon was able to build this exceptional feature which reduced a lot of customer friction, because customer just clicks one button, it by default picks up the default shipping address, billing address, payment method, and just delivers your order. So it makes it so easy. So you kind of solve a very big customer problem there.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's also a great example of laying out the customer journey and figuring out how can we make it as frictionless and as painless as possible for the customer to get to what he wants to.
100%.
Yeah. So once we do that, we have a goal in mind. Maybe the next step would be something like mapping out what are the actual steps in the process, right? So should we
Yes.
like maybe do an example here, Srinath, and see how that goes through as we look at this. So let's maybe take an example of
Yes.
a person who is wanting to buy a gift for his friend for Christmas, right? So this is Christmas, season, right? So let's do that. The motivation here would be a person wants to buy a Christmas gift for a friend, and maybe the person goes in and searches on the website for Christmas gifts or something like that. Then there comes a list of websites, right, which have Christmas gifts. And once maybe she clicks on one website based on the brand she likes, or which she has purchased before, and then she goes in and browses site. Once she browses the site, she maybe filters it with price, right? She might be more sensitive towards price, or she might want deals and all of that stuff. Once she's
Yep.
done does that, then she evaluates the product and maybe finalizes on one, then does the checkout and does the payment, and then receives the overall package. So That's
Yep.
the steps which are involved in the customer map. So did you like did you experience anything while working for a team which you had to build for a specific scenario?
Yeah. No. Yes. So in my previous experience, when I was working in building like payment features for customers, so they can use to purchase with an Amazon. So I worked with like few features which we wanted to reduce the customer friction. For instance, some of the features which we created was how can customers seamlessly add new payment methods within their account, so they can use that to purchase any products within Amazon. So we created various experiences, and when we were trying to create that experience for customers, we did a lot of user journey mapping, customer interviews, and all that stuff to understand what is that experience, what are the steps that we need to do. At the same time, not create more steps, create very simple, easy, and maybe even a single page experience. How do you do all that and helps solve the customer problem or goal, which is nothing but, I mean, how they can make the purchase as easy as possible. So yes, I've used that and it's been very helpful.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good. So, I think we could do it in multiple ways, but I would say maybe there could be a combination of things that we could do to build this, right? This user journey, right? If I do shopping online, so I know how this works and how I do searches. There could be products where we don't know what the different steps are. So we could either do customer interviews as you said before, and maybe observe how the users behave to get to that action which you want. So these two ways we can figure out what are the different steps the persona performs to get to that final step of purchasing the product, or purchasing the service or doing a particular action.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
good.
know. Few, yeah, no, I know a few people use like what the usability testing, A/B testing. For instance, I mean, giving that the current or like the previous experience, and engaging the customers in that previous experience and observing where the customers are experiencing friction. I mean, what they are not liking it and all that stuff. So I think we'll probably cover this later in one of our steps.
Yep,
I think
that's
which
right.
you already mentioned. Yes, but yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a good segue into the next step, right? Where we identify the emotions and thoughts. So I'd say this is also very important, right? Because I think, yeah, we can get a lot of pain points, but getting people's emotions, like are they frustrated, agitated, or all of that, would capture the level of intensity of the pain people have, right? There could be friction levels which people are okay with, and they're like, okay, that's fine. And there could be problems which people are really frustrated, right? Where maybe when I in the previous journey which we are talking about, right, when I order a product, I won't get it before Christmas. So that could be a very frustrating step to a person because he wants to gift it before a certain set of time. So I think there could be some steps which the user is really frustrated about. So identifying that and making sure we solve for that will make it more smooth and all. What do you say?
No, exactly. I mean, understanding the customer, I mean, the sentiment, what do they care about is very important. I mean, so you focus on the right ones. I mean, and also it's not only important when you're doing this journey mapping. I think it will also be useful when you're doing your prioritization. I mean, right? Like, for instance, when you're doing any prioritization exercise, you need to know what is a must have, nice to have, good to have, all
That's
that
right.
stuff, right? The way you can also easily define is understanding what is the biggest pain point from the customer, from the things that you are I mean observing when you're doing the user journey mapping. So having understanding the customer emotion and their sentiment, what do they care about, will really help in you to finalizing those key ones, so that you can later on use for prioritization exercise when you're building your product.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Srinath. So I think we covered some of those in the other podcast, like last week's podcast. So anybody, if haven't watched that, we covered a set of prioritization tools. Please go and watch that. But I think that brings a very important point, and also it's a segue to the next topic. Next step we have is identifying the pain points. I think these two go hand in hand, right? Where we say that, okay, I could collect thousands of pain points from the users, but what are the pain points which I would act on? So I would say I would maybe prioritize by the intensity of the pain, as we were talking before. Like the person is really, really frustrated with that step, and also the level of impact, right? So this specific step is being experienced by 80% of your users. So 80% of your users are facing this pain point, and also they are like frustrated to the peaks at this point. I think that automatically puts this specific pain point which we collected to the top of the bucket where we have to solve to make the overall experience better. So I think identifying pain, what do you say, identifying the emotions and thoughts, and also identifying pain points all go hand in hand while uh, making it easy for the users on the customer journey map. So
Yeah.
any examples, or you want to add anything, Srinath?
Yeah, no, definitely. To a plus one to what all you just said. I mean, when you're doing, for instance, when one is doing this exercise, what I would suggest is, I mean, you yourself just like, I mean, get that experience. If you were the customer trying to purchase a product with an Amazon, let's take an example, right? So try to go through that experience yourself as well to understand. I mean, to understand what the customer pain is. I mean, you as a customer, as well as validating against what customer said, so that way you get to know, you get to that pain point and you understand that, and that will be really helpful when later on, when during your product development phase, when you're trying to build that feature. So yes, understanding the pain points are very critical, and so you are creating a best customer experience as possible.
Yeah. So also I'll take another example here, right? While I think Grubhub and Uber Eats and all of these guys like who are doing food delivery, uh, while they're initially building their app, they had, I think, a lot of these problems where uh, a person would order from the restaurant, the driver would either come in, but it's it's hard for the driver to find parking to basically go in and get that delivery order. So that was one of the pain point, and once he gets that, directions were the pain points. And maybe once he receive gets to that the customer's house, finding his place is a problem sometimes. And also when the food is delivered, right, sometimes it might not be hot and all of that. So these were the initial problems that were identified while building these apps. And as the experience got better and better, all of these got solved. And I would say now the experience, even though it's not great, it is better than it was previously, right? Now you know that you'll at least, if you have ordered something online, I think 99% of the time you'll actually get that order, right? And it's also hot, or at least in a good condition that you can consume that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I've seen, for instance, when I think DoorDash was initially launched, I placed an order, and I recently made an order a couple of weeks back. I could see the experience, I mean, the difference in experience. I mean, I felt like it was more than 50 to 60% improvement in terms of experience I myself faced. I think probably they gathered a lot of the customer pain points, probably through their surveys, ratings, different forums. I mean, probably that really helped them to create their own what that user journey mapping is, so they can create an overall better experience for users.
Yeah. When talking about delivery, um, India, I think the service industry is like booming so much. There are so many startups around this space in India, especially when I was in Hyderabad, I was like seeing 10-minute grocery. I was like shocked, like how can they even deliver something in 10 minutes? Where I
Exactly.
used to order something, go to the restroom, come out, and by the time I'm out, I used to get that order. So that's like so amazing that people are working on so many things, and they're making the experience more and more easier.
Yes, so much innovation happening in that space. I mean, especially I see when I felt the same when I was in India as well. That experience, like where there were like there were many apps which are I felt like competing. For instance, there was 8 minute, there was 10 minute, there was 15 minutes. So it was like you don't need to even step out, and there was so much innovation happening, trying to solve the key customer problem, which is how can their customer get that in their doorsteps without even stepping out, and so they can save time and traffic congestion and all the stuff, which is a lot in India, where they can spend probably an hour and a half getting that versus getting that in 10 minutes at your doorsteps.
Yeah. So even there are apps or services or companies for crazy things. I've seen there's an app where when you go to a pub outside and get drunk, and if you want driver, you can order, you can basically book a service where the person comes in, picks your car, drives you to your house and then leaves. And that's crazy. And there's also
Yes.
service apps for if you want to get something repaired, right? Bathroom repair, there's somebody who will come in. The massages, they'll come in. And I think for each and everything, if you want to maybe you prepared something for your friend and give it to them, you need not go, right? There's a person who will come and pick it up. So there's so much innovation going on in the service space, and customer journey map is the most important thing for that, any of these apps which are being developed. So that
Yes.
gets to our last part, Srinath. So I think we use all of these steps to create a customer journey map, which is steps, emotions, pain points. And once we have it, I think that's when we look at what can we solve and make the overall process smooth, right? So I think there are also some tips, right? Do you want to cover tips for creating an effective user journey map?
We covered a lot of the stuff, and the steps that you mentioned. I mean, I think there are various tools out there in the market. For instance, there is InVision, there is Figma, there is HubSpot. There is various tools which already have like a lot of like default templates, so one doesn't need to create from scratch. I mean, obviously, people can create from scratch. They can just, I mean, they can basically just create on their own in a simple, I mean, any like a PowerPoint and that stuff as well. But what I want to just throw it is that there are various tools that already exist which they can leverage. And if they can take our steps that we mentioned today, that the top 5 steps, and create a map, um, uses any map, I think that probably is the easiest way. But definitely, yes, we can discuss one.
Yeah, that's right. So I think a very good point, right? So it's not necessary we have to restrict ourselves using a tool like Miro or something like that. There are multiple. I have done customer journey maps in PowerPoint. I've done customer journey maps using Miro or InVision and all the different things. But I think the whole and sole purpose of a customer journey map is to make it as simple as possible and make it easy for the users to read. uh, and maybe we'll cover some effective tips or some things to create this, right? Should we do that? So
Yes.
yeah, so covering the tips, right? I would say I'll add a couple, and maybe you also add a couple of tips after that. I'd say the first and foremost thing is make sure it is simple as possible, because the more complicated you make it, the more it is difficult to understand, right? So the main goal is to everybody in the team to understand it and maybe create solutions based on that. So make it as simple as possible. And the second tip I would give is use visuals, right? So people, it shouldn't be something like a plain drawing which you have somewhere, right? So make it visually appealing so that people actually feel that they are walking through with the customer through that user journey. So make it more and more visual. Do you want to add anything else for that?
Yeah, no, definitely. Plus one to what you just mentioned. So, in addition to that, I can think of like making it actionable, right? So, when you're trying to understand the pain points, you need to come up with kind of, I mean, the features or strategies on how you can solve the customer's goal. So, making it actionable and measuring it will be really helpful. And the other one, which I would also say is, I mean, make it, I mean, shareable. I mean, for instance, I mean, how when you create a journey map, I mean, you need to make sure you bring all the stakeholders aligned on your journey map, because it's not just you alone building the feature. I mean, you will be working with so many peers like the engineering teams or technical program management teams in building that feature. So you need to make sure it's as easy as possible to share across the groups so they really understand the big picture that you're trying to solve. And third thing, which I can also think of is, I mean, scalable. So when you're trying to build a feature, how can you scale this across? I mean, maybe not just like customer segments, maybe to like, for instance, let's take marketplaces. For instance, when you launch a feature like Instagram, right? Like, how do you make it available not only in US but also launch in Europe. I mean, by incorporating their unique needs, how can you create something which can be easily scalable? I should not be in a position where I'm building a new Instagram in Europe and again building a new Instagram India. How can I take the existing one and scale it? I mean, what do you think, Siddhu? Do you want to add anything?
Yeah. So you're bringing in your operations hat here so that you want to make things more scalable. Yeah, yeah. I think that is also absolutely true, right? We don't want to reinvent the wheel every time, but also we want to cater towards those regional specific needs which the customers have. So I think making it more and more adaptable so that people can use the same, at least the common steps, and interlace that with the customer specifics for that region would be very helpful. So one other thing I would also say is this is not like a one time done task, right? So I would say that
Yes.
this is an iterative approach. I might capture some points in the first iteration, then as I talk to more customers, see more things and iterate, experiment, I would get more insights and make a better version of it. So I have never seen anybody get that right the first time. So it'll take three, four, sometimes even five or six iterations, and it keeps evolving. It's timeless. But it keeps evolving. We keep updating, and also because we all know customer preferences change all the time, and they change by season, they change by age, and all of that stuff. So I think the main mantra is to iterate it and make it perfect as we get more and more information.
Exactly. There is always a scope for improvement. And I mean, as we all know, customers' preferences change, our technologies change, the accessibility change. So you need to continuously understand the key goals of the customer, I mean, which can change, I mean, pretty often. So trying to make sure the whatever you create, the experience is as relevant as possible, as frictionless as possible, and as easy as possible for customers to use your product.
Yeah, and also maybe one other example is right. Maybe Target and all of these e-commerce, brick and mortar e-commerce, brick and mortar and e-commerce stores might have had a customer journey before COVID, but everything was all proven wrong when COVID hit, right? Where people were not able to go out to their houses. There were more drive ups, pickups, and all of that stuff. So they had to change a lot of things. So I think that's an example, perfect example of how customer preferences change and how we have to adapt it to make sure we meet the customer preferences. So
Yes,
yeah,
totally.
I think it was a really good conversation, Srinath. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening.
Yep, thanks everyone. I mean, I do wait for 2023. We have a lot of exciting content to come. I mean, yeah, looking forward to, I mean, see you all soon.